Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Today has seen yet another change of branding here in the CDL, with the Florida Mutineers officially no more. Miami Heretics are coming in instead. They've also officially confirmed their full roster for next season. Is it going to be any good? What are the key storylines around this team? Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts and all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Just a quick one as well from X Defiant actually, because I know many are waiting until this game launches, or maybe the hype is now just completely gone for this title, unfortunately, because it's taken rather a long time. And Mark Rubin, formerly of Infinity Ward, actually made a few games with them back in the day, says that people are still excited. We're trying to get it going, but unfortunately, it's this process isn't ideal. They've got to get it approved, and squashing some last-minute bugs, submitting it for release, and they say that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So we don't know when it's going to get released, but if it comes out too much later, then it's going to clash with the new COD game. And if the new COD game's actually any good, X Defiant and all of its seeming potential will be squandered before it even arrives. Now let's talk Florida Mutineers, because they're officially no more. Now it was back in May, and maybe even slightly earlier, but it was certainly the start of May here we can see from Jake Hale, where the first rumours emerged that they were going to partner with Team Heretics. I'm not exactly sure that Heretics have bought the Mutineers. I'm guessing that Misfits still own it, or at least they're part of the ownership group over there. There's a partnership thing here in place, and even Heretics talk in a second that they were looking to partner with potentially Paris, and then potentially even Vegas when they moved over to Vegas. That didn't happen, and honestly, the Miami stuff makes way more sense due to, just the Spanish-speaking population in Florida. I think it makes more sense generally, and is a pretty good partnership, but unfortunately it does mean that Florida is officially dead, and we actually saw this confirmation from, well, this formerly said, actually, they've got the name back. That was weird, didn't it? It actually changed as soon as I clicked on this. So they did have the Mutineers, and everything was Mutineers as of this morning, and then they changed their @ to Miami Heretics _ because for some reason, I don't know why this happened, but the leak arrived, and then I'm guessing somebody that wasn't these guys made the Miami Heretics account on Twitter, x.com as it is now, so they had to settle for Miami Heretics _ because they apparently haven't worked out yet how to get the, there's an inactive account that someone, I guess, made after the rumors happened that they didn't make themselves. So a bit of an oversight there, and now it seems like they've just reverted back to Mutineers for the time being. So that's a bit of a strange one, but whatever. They come up with this beautiful graphic looking back at all of the players in their history. Thanks to everyone that was part of it. There's some funny players on here, really, because in the back left, I'm thinking this is Maniac. You guys know OpTic Maniac, who was, if you guys haven't been around long, actually, no, it does say Willet on his jersey there, so that is Willet. But is Maniac on it then? Maybe he's not, to be fair. But Maniac was technically part of their team, if you guys remember, back in the Modern Warfare days. He was on the substitute bench. I'm not talking Major Maniac, I'm talking OpTic Maniac with a C. But anyway, I think we can actually tell on the jerseys who is who. This, of course, is Pharaoh, rest in peace, in the foreground. Awakening, Skyz, Havoc, Frosty, Morgs, Atura, even that's Ogre 2, I guess. Two Reel's got his pillow there, which is kind of nice. So, there's a lot of history to this organization. We got Brack, Dave Paddy, of course, in the background, and, Vikul dropping the Sue, potentially. So, and this is Slacked, right? So lots of players they had in their tenure here as the Florida Mutineers, and honestly, as an organization, they arguably should have done better than they did. I mean, the first year of the CDL, they were really competitive. I mean, they're that team, as we can see, with Pharaoh, of course, and Awakening, Skyz, Frosty, and then Morks was there, and then they made some changes. Priestahh was even there at the start of the season, right? And they were really good. They won 3 events that year, 2 of which were the Awakening. Yes, it was online, but they had the chance, and then the Skyz Awakening thing didn't really work for them going into the Cold War days, and since then it's been a big downhill trajectory where, honestly, Florida could have been a really big brand in the CDL, I think, with a lot of fans, but because the team wasn't particularly good, I think they squandered some of that potential, to be honest. And we just look at this quickly. I mean, MW19, they had an average placement of about 4th. They earned $365,000 in prize money. Didn't have a great placing at Champs, but they won the Dallas home series, the Minnesota home series, the Paris home series, dominating FaZe in the finals of one of those you guys might remember. And then the last 3 games have been very much lackluster. I mean, okay, they averaged an average placing of 6.4 in Vanguard, which, all things considered, wasn't too bad, but still failed to qualify for the World Championship, and they will now be looking to turn that around. So Florida, great brand, another brand that bites the dust, quite frankly, because Heretics are coming in instead. We saw this brand get leaked a couple of weeks ago now. now as to what it's going to look like. And look, as far as I'm concerned, it's not as pretty as the Florida Mutineers branding was, but it is what it is. And they go live earlier today to confirm that Heretics are going to be back in Call of Duty going forward. This is, I think, great for the CDL generally. I know that people are going to miss Florida. There's certainly one organization or one team that won't miss Florida, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. But Heretics, if you guys haven't been around, the Spanish community was just massive for COD pre-CDL especially, and when Heretics qualified for the Pro League, it was such a cool moment. The Spanish scene was always so supportive of Call of Duty, and for the last few years, they haven't really had anyone to support, and it's been a shame. Lots of great Spanish players, and you could well argue there are better Spanish players than they have put on this roster, but still, that's a topic we'll get to in the coming minutes. But Heretics confirm it back in the CDL, and also this comes out here from Heretics where they come out with this statement on the players that actually used to be on Heretics back in 2019. Many of them are on the new iteration of the roster. They have a bit of a roundtable here discussing some of the things. There's actually quite a few interesting pieces in here that we will get into, one of which being this actually, that where he talks about that they were close to being Paris Heretics. They talked about being Madrid Heretics, getting Paris's spot and moving it to Madrid, and then even Las Vegas Heretics, and this time they tried it without the Paris ownership group involved and tried to partner with Florida, and they've made that work now. So I think it makes sense for all parties involved. I think it is good for the CDL, and as we see here from Miami Heretics, now it says that Mutineers again, hashtag take my Vamos is kind of funny. If you guys aren't familiar with this, London's social media guy, Pada, he actually came up with this. He put it in the Twitch chat, because people used to say take my energy, right? It was like, oh, this team take my energy. So Vamos is like, Spanish for let's go type thing, or like come on, something like that anyway. And he said take my Vamos in the Twitch chat, and people started running with it. And during the Black Ops 4 season, take my Vamos was everywhere whenever, Heretics were playing. And now it's like their official hashtag, it seems. So anyway, this is the branding, as you guys can tell. They also come up with a statement saying we're humbled and thrilled to be back in the league. Miami Heretics is here, and we couldn't be more excited. In the first place, I want to thank Mutineers for the great work they've done, and we're here to continue that legacy. So pretty much taken over everything about the Florida Mutineers. And look, I can't say I'm going to miss that Florida team terribly, because frankly, they didn't do much the last couple of seasons. They weren't particularly competitive. They didn't really represent any, country or community as Heretics now will. So I'm happy to see this, frankly. This is the logo, which again, okay, what is going on right now? What is going on? Okay, it seems they've now changed it back to Miami Heretics again. So I just found it, I don't know what's going on there with these guys' social medias. But anyway, this is the logo, like the shortened version. It's not especially pretty, but it gets the job done, I suppose. And this is now their new header that they've also put on their website with all the merchandise they've come out with as well. So like, it looks kind of clean, to be fair, from this perspective. And they got the merch they've got as well. So this is without color, this is with color. It's not bad. I don't hate it personally. I think the color combination is kind of nice. Similar enough to Mutineers, similar enough as well to Miami Dolphins, it's got to be said. So there are some, parallels, I suppose we could say. Now, what's the roster? This is the roster. They also confirm it in the same video and later in the day. Just to clarify, this isn't Methods, Anthony Methods Zinni. This is Methods Sick, the Spanish or the EU method, as people used to call him, when they're both competing at the same time. I believe there was a story when they said, all right, let's 1v1 each other, and the loser has to change their gamer tag. And I'm pretty sure Zinni lost that, if that even happened. That's the story that I hear. I don't know if there's a VOD of this 1v1, but Zinni obviously never changed his name. So he's been the EU Methods, and despite Zinni being out of the league, Methods, the OG, like the Spanish one, is now back in the league as the coach of this team. Now, it's not going to 5v5, right? Don't worry about that. It's still 4v4, but they will have a 5-man team. And this, I believe, is the exact 5-man team that was leaked at the start of May. So they've had this known for a long time, and this is the roster. Must be said as well, 4 of these players, including Methods that is, were on the original Heretics team back in 2019. That includes Lucky, MettalZ, and JurNii. Vikul is now retained by Florida, now Miami Heretics, also Spanish player, of course. Did pretty well, I will say, as well at the end of last season. And then Erikboom coming along for the show as well. Now, it's unclear as yet what the roles will be, especially because we don't know who's on the bench yet, right? One of these players won't start on the starting team, but 4 of them will. So maybe if I had to predict right now, I'd say that Lucky maybe is the most likely, but you really don't know. I think you can go a lot of different ways. MettalZ, I think, will for sure start. I think he's been one of the best Spanish players of the last season and was really good back in Black Ops 4 as well. So it's officially confirmed here that Vikul is coming in. I know that some of this stuff is like pending league approval still, but here we go. Now, one of the big questions has been, is this the best crop of Spanish players? Because you look at that team and people are like, are they just going to get cooked? And I don't think they'll get completely cooked, but like, can I see this team making champs? I'm not so convinced, personally. Now, Heretics were really good. I mean, JurNii especially was a top player in Black Ops 4, and I'm looking forward to seeing them back in business. But for whatever reason, some of the top Spanish players of the last couple of years in challenges, there's 3 that come to mind. Real is certainly probably the one that comes to most people's mind because he was on the Minnesota Rocker Academy and has garnered a pretty big reputation. Rencor as well, another Spanish player, really good. And also Super, who seems like a really promising player. None of those 3 players top Spanish players as far as I'm concerned, and there's also some good Spanish-speaking players from either Latin America or Mexico that just aren't included here. So I don't know if it's like the team wants to go with the guys that they know and trusted from back in the day, plus a couple of newer guys that weren't on this team. So this is JurNii on the left, this is MettalZ right, this is Method Sick, now the coach, this is Lucky, and then I think this was Sucre, wasn't it, on the right-hand side here? So, you know, they had the KFC sponsorship back in the day, like when things were going well, of course. So, you know, there's a lot to be said about this team. Isn't going to be any good. I'm not sure, personally. It depends who's on the starting team, who's on the bench. But I feel like if you want a Spanish team that's actually going to be able to really contend, I think you need the best 4 Spanish players on one team. You know, you need to build like the dynasty, theoretically, of the Spanish players. And I'm not sure they have the best 4 Spanish players on that roster, as far as I'm concerned. So that's my questions about this team. But things could change. I like that they're going the full Spanish route. It's going to be great for the scene to have that support back again. I know that Daniel Sai and the CDL have been very, you know, happy about this announcement. And I'm happy about it as well. Maybe at some point we'll get like a Madrid event and we can actually have the Spanish scene out in full force again. Because one of the most passionate communities in Call of Duty, hands down, that have, since the CDL's been around, had basically nothing to cheer for. So it's good to see. Now, also we've got to mention, Florida gone is a big talking point. Not just because the branding was so good, as far as some people are concerned, but also because of the matches they had over time. It's kind of sad to look back on Dallas and Florida. None of these 2 teams even exist anymore. And of course, Domination no longer exists. And these are some of the brands that are gone. I mean, look, 3 of these related in some parts to Hex, right, with the Empire thing, OpTic Chicago Huntsman. But, you know, Florida Mutineers also have bitten the dust as well. And, you know, we saw plenty of times, especially in the last 2 seasons, Florida, despite not being very good most of the time, and Dave Paddy, when he was on the team especially, having OpTic's number, especially as OpTic Texas. Even we saw this at the start of the season or whatever it was, when, you know, Vikul apparently had told Ant for the rotation, like, look, make sure you get the reaction when I beat OpTic, and that's precisely what happened when they knocked them out of the tournament. It was so predictable, right? When, you know, Florida were going to come in and knock OpTic out of this event. I mean, it was just incredible that it actually happened in the way that people predicted that it would. But now Florida are gone. Will this curse continue? There's like the OpTic curse that is, if you get dropped from OpTic, you're going to win champs the next year. That might not continue this year, to be honest, looking at potentially some of the teams that are being formed by the guys that were gone from OpTic this recent season. But Seattle, Thieves, maybe they can do something. The other curse that OpTic are a part of is getting bodied by Florida, that side of the curse. And, you know, this is the thing. Will Scump be able to finally sleep peacefully? He's not competing anymore, so it doesn't matter. But still, that kind of curse of Florida against OpTic has existed kind of regardless. And now Florida are gone. So will the Miami Heretics continue that streak against OpTic of keeping up that reputation of always taking them down? Or is this finally the time for OpTic to take the next step? Because many pointers are suggesting that OpTic could be in for a particularly good season here, right? I mean, okay, Pred comes in. Yes, they've got the OpTic curse to deal with that we don't know if that's still going to take effect, if that even exists. It depends how superstitious you guys are. Kenny as well was like the other OpTic hard counter for the last couple of years on Thieves. He's now joins them, and the Mutineers as a brand is gone. Now, I don't think there was much in the whole Mutineers OpTic thing. It was just they matched up quite well against OpTic and tended to get the better of them. But there's always like that little psychological thing when everyone in the community knows that, oh, it's OpTic Florida, especially in, you know, certain matchups, people expected Mutineers to win. And I'm sure the OpTic guys were also thinking, damn, like, we've got to play Florida again, like they always have our number for whatever reason. And then you lose map 1. run, or you get come back on in the search and you're like, oh my god, it's happening again. Like, that psychological factor may have played some small role in the results and the success that Mutineers had against OpTic in the last couple of years. So with that being gone, maybe that's a slight benefit, but it's definitely a strange one to look at. But yeah, really intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Going to be mixed opinions for sure on Mutineers being gone and the roster that the Spanish guys are going to form over at Heretics, but I think in general, it's a good thing for the league. Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I will see you next time.